joining us now, former Israeli Prime Minister and former Chief of Staff for Benjamin Netanyahu, Naftali Bennett. Really good to have you, and thank you for joining us. I want to get your take on what's next for the region after we're seeing what's unfolding in Syria and what you think it might mean for Iran.
Well, certainly there's good news and there's uncertainty as well. The good news is that Iran and its proxies and the whole axis has been severely weakened. Yahya Sinwar attacked Israel a year and 2 months ago, hoping to destroy Israel. In the meantime, Hamas has been all but demolished. Hezbollah, its leadership has been taken out. Syria is out, and I would say Iran is certainly on the defensive, and this is good news. However, the new replacement is an unknown. We're talking about a very radical individual, Jolani, who grew up in Al-Qaeda. And the fact that there's some facade of being a bit more moderate, I think it's way too early to say that. So we got to be very cautious. And that's why Israel is not just standing on the sidelines, but it's acting. We created a buffer zone, and we've taken out much of Syrians' lethal weapons, so the damage they can cause others will be minimalized.
I know that you've taken out the Navy as well. You're talking about the buffer zone that Israel is now enforcing. Has the country reached out to al-Jolani or the interim prime minister in Syria to try to figure out which path that country is going to take and whether the path might not be so hostile toward Israel?
Well, it's way too early because I'm hearing the words. The words are moderate, and he's talking about building institutions.
But has Israel reached out? Have there been conversations?
No, at this point, the main thing was to deny this new regime of lethal and weapons of mass destruction, such as chemical weapons. We need to make sure that regardless of whether they turn out to be positive or negative, they do not hold these weapons. Later on, if we see over time that the new regime's actions are positive, then gradually we'll be able to review our policy.
What does Israel do now with Iran specifically? We talked about that a little bit up top, but with the two options that Iran seems to have in front of it, either double down on its nuclear program or try to find a way to stabilize relations with its neighbors, where does Israel see its role here? What will Israel do? What might they do in the face of these potentials?
I could say what I would do as a prime minister of Israel. What I would do at this point, there's a high risk that Iran will try and break out for a nuclear weapon. They have enough highly enriched uranium for 12 nuclear bombs. So what I would do, I would strike Iran's nuclear and regime capabilities with two goals. Diminishing their nuclear program as much as we can. And I'm not talking about a one-off. I'm talking about a sustained attack. And I think the goal of the West should be ultimately to topple the regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's a horrible regime that's been oppressing its own people, that's been exporting terror, rockets, and death to the entire region. And I think the world will be way better if this head of the octopus of terror will be severed.
There's some domestic politics. And if you are running for prime minister, if you decide to go up against Benjamin Netanyahu, or if Benjamin Netanyahu decides to step aside, regardless, you're going to get asked about Netanyahu's trial. He took the stand today and said that all of this was baloney. He used different words, and that he's focused on the country and the war, not himself. What's your take on the corruption charges and this trial that has hung over Israel's head for so long and deeply divided the nation?
Well, as an Israeli citizen, regardless of the political, opposition that I may present, as an Israeli citizen, I would hope that our prime minister will ultimately come out clean from this trial, but we'll let the trial do its course, and we'll respect whatever results there are.
Naftali Bennett, thank you so much for coming on and talking about the future for the country and the ways in which you would address Iran specifically if you were in charge. I appreciate it.